What would happen if I didn't know any of the answers? Surely you'd have to like rush out to your bosses and be like, it's going to be a disaster, he knows nothing. Hello, I'm Harry Whittaker, Lucinda Riley's son, and this is the Capel and Dam Seven Sisters quiz, and I'm very nervous. Here we go. On her way to Australia, CeCe meets the mysterious Ace on a magically beautiful beach. In which country? It's Thailand. That's where she meets Ace, on a beautiful beach, and I know because we went on a family holiday there when I was about 8 years old, and it was the best holiday I've ever been on. So that's why it's set on that beach. In The Storm Sister, oh no, one of Ibsen's plays is central. Which one? This is the worst question because obviously you're watching in Norway and Ibsen is such an important figure in your culture. Is it Hedda Gabler? That's the only Ibsen play I can remember from school. Is it Hedda Gabler? It's Peer Gynt. Of course it's Peer Gynt because of the connection to Grieg and his music, so I'm sorry about that. I feel like I've let Norway down. Mary has been hiding a worn notebook for 48 years. Which book? That's Nula's Diary, which is the past section of the 7th book in the Seven Sisters series, The Missing Sister. The book set in Ireland, which I think maybe it might be my favourite because I grew up in Ireland for the first 5 years of my life. My mum, Lucinda Riley, was Irish. And it's set where we lived, so I love it. In The Shadow Sister, we meet a colourful and eccentric figure in London, Orlando. What does he work as? Orlando is a bookseller. He has a bookshop. It's called Arthur Morstan Books. It's in a place called Kensington in London, and it's actually based on a bookshop which is not in Kensington. It's a bookshop which is just off the King's Road in London, and you can actually go there. So if you want the address, send me an email. What is the name of Tiggy's great love in The Moon Sister, and where does he live? Tiggy's great love is Dr. Charlie Kinnaird, and he lives in the Scottish Highlands. You're testing me, I can't, it's the Kinnaird Estate. It's the Kinnaird Estate in Scotland. And of course Tiggy gets a very happy ending because she gets to restore the wildlife in the Scottish Highlands, which is her dream. Maya is the slightly cautious and caring of the sisters, and she is very articulate. What does she work as? Well, she actually works as a translator, which I love. I think it's such a wonderful idea from Lucinda, because the most valuable person in terms of her books across the world, and Norway in particular, is the translator who expresses Mum's words in the relevant language. So I have to give a shout out to Benedicta, who is the Norwegian translator, who I met very recently and is the loveliest person ever. So thank you, Benedicta. Star needs to find herself and step out of the shadow of a sister who has been very close to her. Which sister? It's CeCe. They were adopted very close together. So even though they have very different personalities, they spent all the time together growing up. And CeCe has a very domineering, dominant personality, as we learnt about her Australian past and her Aboriginal heritage. And Star is a very quiet, unassuming character. But in book number 3, The Shadow Sister, she finds her voice. In her penthouse apartment in New York, Electra one day gets a visitor, an elderly woman called Stella. She wants to tell Electra about her past. Who is Stella? Now, Stella is Electra's grandmother, and Electra's mother, this is a hard one. Can I remember her name? I'm so sorry, I can't remember her name, shame on me. But Stella is Electra's grandmother. We never get to really know who Electra's mother was because very tragically, she was addicted to drugs in New York in the late 80s, early 1990s, and Electra was taken away from her as a baby because Electra began crying in one of the drug dens and someone removed her to stop the police coming to find them. So a sad story, but we know that Electra gets a happy ending. In Kenya, Cecily discovers that she is pregnant. Who is the father of the child? I cannot remember the name of the character, but I know that they met together in the English country house, and he was a bit of a love rat. He actually had a wife, and he impregnated Cecily, and I can't remember his name, but he was very evil. What was his name? Julian. We hate Julian. Evil Julian. The title, The Pearl Sister, refers to an industry on the northwest coast of Australia. Which one? Well, the answer is the pearling industry, funnily enough, which is why it's called The Pearl Sister. So much of the novel is set in Broome, Australia, which was a place that thrived in terms of the pearling industry, one of the really central places in the entire world for that. And maybe you remember that in The Pearl Sister, there is a magical pearl, a cursed pearl, called the Roseate Pearl. I don't want to spoil anything for the 8th book, the final book, but maybe just remember the Roseate Pearl. You got me. I'm annoyed I only got 90%. What would happen if I didn't know any of the answers? Surely you'd have to like rush out to your bosses and be like, it's going to be a disaster, he knows nothing.